dear friends and colleagues. You know, lately I've been contacted by many colleagues from all over the world, actually, with a very interesting question. They say that several agencies, I didn't hear it from direct clients, but maybe that's the case with some of them also, are asking interpreters to do distance interpreting assignments alone when the event is less than an hour. They say that it doesn't really justify having two interpreters doing the assignment, and they want our colleagues to work solo for these assignments. Colleagues have approached me and asked me if that is really the case and if they should accept those conditions. My answer is an emphatical no. And there are three main reasons. Maybe there are others, but there are three very important reasons why you should never accept to work under those circumstances. Number one, because there's a tremendous cognitive load involved with distance interpreting, concretely remote simultaneous interpreting. You are going to be mentally and physically exhausted quicker than when you are working in person because there are many more tasks added to the already multitasking jobs that we do. Also, it is very difficult to work alone because you don't have any support from the passive interpreter, and that's always a very important issue to keep in mind. The second reason is just plain and simple, because with only one interpreter, things can go wrong, and then there goes the neighborhood, there goes the event. If you only have one interpreter, and then there are certain events that happen at the location of the interpreter that are beyond the interpreter's control, and that the interpreter could not have avoided, such as a power failure, a failure on the internet services, a technical failure, a hardware failure, a software failure, then you don't have interpretation for that event. If you only have one interpreter, that's the end of it. But if you have two interpreters at least, well, while the other interpreter goes through the troubleshooting on the electric power gets restored, or whatever might be the case, one interpreter can keep working on an emergency basis. That's not the best possible choice, but at least the event keeps moving along. And it's not just power failure and circumstances like that. It could be also a geography problem. What if the interpreter working solo is in a place where there can be an earthquake and one happens? There can be a hurricane and one happens. There can be a flood and one happens. And many other natural events, acts of God. It is never good to have one interpreter for that reason, and most clients want the event to be a success. So when confronted with this reality that they have not even thought about, then they will agree quickly to having at least two interpreters, if not because they understand and sympathize with the cognitive load argument, at least because they want to make sure that their event gets interpreted. And for us, the end reason is the same. The end result is the same, so it doesn't matter which one of the two arguments they buy. But that's not all. There's a third very valid argument and reason. Working solo for these events creates a terrible precedent. You hurt the profession, you hurt your market, you hurt your reputation. Because after that, interpreters will always be questioned when they ask for the second interpreter. After that, you will be kept out of many interpreting lists because you will be known in history as the interpreter that does solo work when working remotely. You don't want that to happen to the profession. You don't want that to happen to you. You don't want that to happen to your market. In fact, this is such an important issue when you put together all these three different arguments that international organizations and national governments are really using three interpreters for these distance assignments, so that even in the worst possible scenario, at least two interpreters can continue to work instead of leaving all the burden on one solo interpreter's shoulders. That's very important. Also, on a separate topic, I've been contacted by some of the same colleagues and others as well, because agencies in the same kind of circumstances have been asking them at the time of billing to just bill from the moment that they start interpreting and not from the moment they log in. And that is just not right. Agencies obviously want to take advantage of the interpreter, saying, well, if you're not interpreting, you are not working. But that's not the case. We all know, and we have to sell the concept to the client that we sell our time. So from the time we log in, we are not making money anywhere else because we are devoted solely to that client's needs. In fact, many times dry runs take place right before we start interpreting, or there's some troubleshooting, or there has to be some testing or explanations because some of the speakers don't know how to use the platform in question. We have to be paid for all that, even if we are just standby, because from the time we log in, they are the owners of our time until the time we log out. Of course, this is easily avoidable if you follow the right practice. That is, you charge by the day. Because if you charge by the day, although logging in time is important, so that once that you get to the 4-hour time limit, you start charging overtime because your full day is over. In these cases of the 1-hour deal or 2-hour deal, which is most of the work that agencies are giving to interpreters to do remotely, it could not be a problem. It could not be an issue because it doesn't matter whether they believe that they have to pay you from the time you start moving your mouth or from the time that you log in, as you should be paid for, because they are going to pay you the daily fee anyway. That's what you should do. Always work in pairs or in teams of 3. Never accept working solo while you're working remotely, and always charge by the day to avoid these not very pleasant situations when they want to shortchange you for a couple of $100 or something like that. So please keep this in mind when you negotiate with your clients, and do not accept assignments where they try to take advantage of you by not observing these very, very basic work conditions. At least that is my opinion. Thank you very much.